Hold on for a moment. We've just reestablished our contact with Dan Simon. He's outside the convention hall. Where are you, Dan?
Well, hey, Wolf, I'm about a block away from the main convention center.
All right, stand by, Dan Simon. I want to. We'll get back to you. We're showing our viewers these live pictures. Dana, you were finishing your thought. Let's go back to the streets of Albuquerque, New Mexico, outside the convention hall right now. Jim Acosta is there. Jim, what's the latest? Because we saw those anti-Donald Trump protesters on the streets, grabbing barricades, throwing rocks. What's the latest?
Wolf, I can tell you right now that it looks like the Albuquerque Police Department is starting to get a handle on this situation. You could look behind me just to see what they've done in the last several minutes. I'm seeing dozens of police officers behind me. They have moved those bike racks or barricades up against the crowd, sort of pushing them away from the convention center. And now those protesters, which we saw in the hundreds at one point, they're sort of down to maybe 50 to 100, maybe even less than that right now. So nothing like what we saw earlier tonight, where you saw people possibly hurling rocks, breaking through the barricades, going up against the glass doors of this convention center. I'm standing next to a couple of people who witnessed some of this earlier this evening. I'm just curious, ma'am, you saw, you said you saw a car burning, or you saw some fires being lit out here?
Setting fires out there with the Donald Trump signs.
They were lighting Donald Trump signs on fire.
And dropping them all over the road. He had to put several fires out, stomp on them.
And what happened, sir? You saw this happening and you jumped in to put out the fires?
Hey, that's what I did. I just jumped in and put them out, and they were screaming obscenities at me and just being obnoxious, and that's about.
Did it feel like things were getting out of control out here for a little while? This doesn't happen
crazy,
very much in Albuquerque.
Oh no, this happens all the time in Albuquerque. Albuquerqueans love to protest.
Okay. But I mean, what was it like when you saw this unfolding?
When we walked out, we were confronted and ambushed by 6 people in masks asking us if we were Donald Trump supporters, and then they proceeded to scream in our face.
And bigots and all kinds of other stuff. And,
okay.
You know.
All right. Well, as you can see, Wolf, there were people outside this convention, outside this rally when all of this was taking place. So there were several witnesses. It's very likely the police will be talking to those witnesses, trying to gather exactly what happened, who started this, and so forth. But it seems like what we're seeing right now, Wolf, things are starting to calm down here as police get a handle on the situation outside the convention center, Wolf.
Yeah, we're showing, Jim, our viewers some live pictures from the streets, still protesters on the streets. Just a few moments ago, we also saw a fight erupt. It ended fairly quickly, but you can see protesters still there in the middle of the streets blocking traffic right now. I assume at some point, Jim, the police are going to go to that area and remove those protesters from the middle of the street.
That's right, Wolf. They are not going to be allowed to stay out indefinitely. That's for sure, having witnessed several of these outbursts at different Donald Trump rallies over the course of this campaign. At some point or another, the local law enforcement authorities will want this to come to an end. At this point, it's fairly peaceful from where we're standing out in front of the convention center. As I said, these police officers behind me, they're in the dozens, I would say, behind me at this point. They have moved these barricades a good 50 yards or so away from the front entrance of the convention center, sort of creating a perimeter to keep things peaceful and under control outside this convention center. But as you said, Wolf, our helicopter vantage point of what's happening in other parts of downtown Albuquerque show that there are, and I can even hear it, it's within earshot of where I'm standing right now. You do hear other pockets of potential disturbances that are being taken care of right now, Wolf. It is certainly something that's not just contained to this area right here. There are other pockets of this happening around downtown, it sounds like, Wolf.
Yeah, it looks like it's escalating a different part of Albuquerque where you are. We're showing our viewers some live pictures going on right now. It looks like somebody's in the middle of that.
It may be, Wolf, that as they're moving them away, it's flaring up in other places.
Yeah, the police have just moved in. Jim Acosta, stand by. Dan Simon is also on the scene at a different location outside the convention hall. Where are you, Dan? I guess we've lost our connection with Dan Simon. We'll get back to Dan Simon. Dan and David, how does this play out politically? These are anti-Donald Trump protesters outside the convention hall in Albuquerque, where he just wrapped up a speech, a rally. A lot of people inside who were very, very supportive of him.
Oh, no question about it. And look, New Mexico is a border state. There are a lot of people in and around that state who support Donald Trump. But Albuquerque itself is, I mean, you heard the woman talking to Jim Acosta saying, oh, no, people in Albuquerque like to protest all the time. But in all seriousness, it's not necessarily fertile territory for Donald Trump.
Hold on for a moment. We've just reestablished our contact with Dan Simon. He's outside the convention hall. Where are you, Dan?
Well, hey, Wolf, I'm about a block away from the main convention center.
All right, stand by, Dan Simon. I want to. We'll get back to you. We're showing our viewers these live pictures. Dana, you were finishing your thought.
Well, I was just going to talk to David about the fact that Albuquerque is not necessarily fertile political ground for Donald Trump.
No doubt about that. First of all, it's in Bernalillo County, and Barack Obama won it by 17 points in 2012 against Mitt Romney. But here's the thing. You said it's a border state. You could see in those pictures that we saw, people were waving some Mexican flags in that picture. So there's no doubt that the border state factor is real and important there to bring up. I do think there's something else that's really interesting going on when you think about what we're seeing tonight, what we saw back in March in Chicago. Donald Trump, and again, New Mexico has an upcoming primary in a couple months. He's still campaigning through the nomination states. That's why he's there. But he is also trying to alter and flip the electoral map. And he has been unafraid to go into heavily Democratic areas and campaign there. And this is not a place that a Republican nominee is likely to spend a lot of time in a traditional sense if you're looking at the electoral map. And yet, Donald Trump is there. And clearly going to make a statement there. With that comes this potential challenge of having an active protest community around you if you're going to places that are traditionally Democratic strongholds and not likely where a ton of your supporters are. You'll get the supporters inside the arena, as he did, no doubt, but you're also going to invite this very robust presence from protesters.
You know, it's true, and especially having been to many Donald Trump rallies, I mean, a big part of the goal from the Trump campaign has been, and obviously continues to be, you know, the big rally to fill the arenas. And you do that, for the most part, in big population centers. You know, you go where the people are. And so, you know, you get the good with the bad if you're somebody as divisive as Donald Trump. But there's no question. I mean, look, I've spent time with Republican candidates in New Mexico, and, you know, sometimes we went to places like Albuquerque, but most of the time went to places where they probably had a better shot at getting their voters out. And Albuquerque isn't one of them. So, you know, whatever his reasons for going there, whether it is just to have the big rally or not, it is something that you don't normally see from Republican candidates.
It is one of two states that George W. Bush flipped from blue to red from his 2000 election to his 2004 election. It has been a place where a George W. Bush-style Republican was able to make it competitive. The question is Donald Trump going to be able to make a place like New Mexico, which has such a heavy Hispanic population,
and a growing one,
no doubt about it, a truly competitive place. It'll actually be, we'll see if he puts real resources in there as the 6 months ahead go. Tonight is an indication he's not afraid to show up there. I just think he has to be prepared for this kind of scene to repeat itself in cities and states, like you said, big population centers, over and over and over again throughout this campaign.
It's interesting that the governor of New Mexico, Susana Martinez, a Republican, was not there at the event tonight. The primary 2 weeks from today in New Mexico, same day as the California primary, she issued a statement saying she had other pressing business to engage in, right?
Yeah, I mean, right. That's like, you know, pressing F4 on your computer, where you just have to say, okay, this is my excuse for the day. She wasn't there because she didn't want to be there, and she didn't want to be there, you know, for lots of reasons. And she voiced some of her concerns about the Trump candidacy earlier, before he was the last man standing, and made clear that she doesn't want to be anybody's running mate now, especially when that person is just Donald Trump. But I think it is telling about the strides that he still has to make in a very large way with the Latino community, which is obviously not going to be easy. He likes to say he is, you know, doing so well among Hispanics and so on and so forth. But, you know, we can't take one protest and make a lot of conclusions about it, but this is an illustration of the challenge he's going to have.
Wolf brings up Susana Martinez. Remember, it's not that long ago. With Chris Christie's re-election in 2013 in New Jersey, he brought one out-of-state surrogate with a national profile to come and campaign for him in New Jersey. Susana Martinez. Yeah. That was the one. Because Chris Christie was, at the time, running as a Republican who was all about trying to expand the appeal to the Hispanic community. And that's only a few years ago. And today, Susana Martinez doesn't want to appear with the presumptive Republican nominee, having been somebody who the party had courted for quite some time and was seen as a rising star.
Certainly, she is a rising star in the Republican Party. You wanted to make one final thought?
Well, I was just going to say, and talking about, kind of trying to change the tone and the tenor and courting the Hispanic vote, which, the Republican Party has been trying to do since George W. Bush did so well, got 44% of that vote. But when Donald Trump was here in Washington a couple of weeks ago, meeting with Republican leaders, John Cornyn, senator from Texas, said point blank to him, I won the majority of the Hispanic vote as a Republican in Texas who's very outspoken against illegal immigration. And there's a way to do it, to have a different kind of conversation. Let me help you. Question is whether he's going to listen to that.
Just imagine the photo op, David and Dana, if Susana Martinez had been inside with Donald Trump tonight on that stage, raising their hands together. That would have been a dramatic moment in his effort to unite, to unify the Republican Party. These are live pictures. We're showing our viewers the streets of Albuquerque right now, not far away from that convention center where Donald Trump just wrapped up his speech. The protesters still out there. These are anti-Donald Trump protesters. Will continue our extensive coverage right after this.